overthinking can be like replaying conversations in your mind, staying awake at night, overthinking about a conversation you might have had. Should you have said something differently? How was it received? Did they misunderstand you? That was certainly one of the things that I had a problem with.
Yeah,
And it's not just with other people you can overthink. It can also be with the things that you're doing as well. Like, is it the right decision? Should I do this or should I do that? Is this going to be good enough? Or that we've talked about this a lot, like the fear of judgment.
yeah.
What people
That's why we worry about what people will think of us, and that prevents us from moving forward. 'Cause
lesson planning. So worrying about your lesson planning, relationships with other members of staff, with the boss, with your colleagues, with the people that you're managing, with the children, with the parents, and worrying about making a mistake. So we always start with a quote, and this week's quote is: overthinking is the art of creating new problems out of ones that never existed in the first place.
that's it, isn't it? We create scenarios in our head that may never actually ever even happen. So it's very important to be aware of what we're thinking and to be aware that we're not creating something that isn't even there.
Absolutely, yeah. So overthinking can be like replaying conversations in your mind, staying awake at night, overthinking about a conversation you might have had. Should you have said something differently? How was it received? Did they misunderstand you? That was certainly one of the things that I had a problem with.
Yeah,
I don't now.
yeah,
I certainly
did. So it can be healed, in fairness, because both of us have experienced that before. That constant thing of like, oh, I should have said this, or why didn't I say this, or oh, overreacting to what they said, or even creating extra that they didn't even say, and you're just going into overdrive.
Yeah. Or sometimes reading over. Doesn't have to just be conversations. It could be text messages, reading over the conversations you've had with people. It can be emails that you're reading over, and it's not just with other people you can overthink. It can also be with the things that you're doing as well. Like, is it the right decision? Should I do this or should I do that? Is this going to be good enough? Or that we've talked about this a lot, like the fear of judgment.
Yeah,
What people
that's why we worry about what people will think of us, and that prevents us from moving forward. Because it's like, I'm the only one doing this. Am I going to be judged, or are people going to laugh at me? All this kind of stuff comes in.
Absolutely, yeah. So what does overthinking look like? So it could be spinning thoughts. We talk about the thought spiral, don't we?
Spirals, yeah.
Second guessing yourself. So questioning whether you made the right decision or if this is going to be good enough. Analysis paralysis. So that's when you're weighing up the pros and the cons, imagining every possible outcome, worrying it's the wrong choice, and it all leads to delaying doing anything, doesn't it? While you're doing that, you're not doing the thing. Or you might avoid it, bit of procrastination, or just freeze and not want to even think about it, or try not to think about it, but you're not acting on the thing that you need to be doing. And it's going to cause you anxiety. It's going to make you feel drained. It could cause frustration, and it just builds more and more self-doubt, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah.
So I've got some examples of how at school, because we can worry at home and in any situation about our decisions, but specifically some teacher related ones are lesson planning. So worrying about your lesson planning, relationships with other members of staff, with the boss, with your colleagues, with the people that you're managing, with the children, with the parents, and worrying about making a mistake. So I've got a little bit about what it is. Why do we have this problem? What's happening in the brain? So the brain is a big problem solving machine, and basically it's gone into overdrive trying to think about, work out what's going to happen. It's trying to predict. Our brain is a predicting machine, and that's why often what we say is that we say your thoughts create your reality, because it's trying to work out what's going to happen, and it's doing that based on the information that you're already telling it, and so it feeds into your filter. So this overthinking can make you it can create problems for you where there weren't one,
That's it.
can't
Like,
it?
and it reminds me of the Will Smith quote, like, fear is a choice. The only place that fear can exist is in our minds. We're fearing something that may never happen. I'm not saying this completely right. So it's like, what he says is like, no, don't get me wrong, danger is very real, but fear is a choice. And that's a fact. We're creating a scenario that mightn't ever happen. And like, as you said, we do create a reality with our thoughts. So if you overly worry and overly fear, you may actually manifest that into your life. So it's very important to be aware of your thoughts and to change it from fear to positivity, so that you manifest in a better scenario rather than the one you feared.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's fear, perfectionism, and a need for certainty that causes the problem. So it's either and often when we're doing things that when we're trying to grow, or when we're trying to change something, we don't know what's going to happen. That's what being out of your comfort zone is,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's stepping out into the unknown. And what can keep people trapped is trying to see the path that hasn't opened up yet, trying to predict what's going to happen, when really you haven't got enough information to predict. And so because you don't know, because there's no certainty, then you're like, well, it could be this, or it could be that, or it could be the other. And if you are somebody who tends to get into negative thought patterns and thought spirals, that can be really detrimental and cause an awful lot of anxiety, can't it? Or depression. Yeah.
That's it. It really is. Like, the fear of the unfamiliarity and the unknown is scary, but what I've noticed with this unknown path, it's only in actually pushing through that fear and taking that step forward that things actually will become clear. When we're in that procrastination stage or that fear stage, it just looks all fuzzy, or you don't see it clearly. But in taking that step forward, in calming your thoughts and taking that step forward, things will actually become clear.
Absolutely. So I've got some specific examples of things that might happen if you're a teacher and you have this overthinking. So it can look like in lots of different ways. It can come out in lots of different ways. These problems do come out in different ways, don't they? So it might be to do with your planning. So you might spend hours tweaking things and wondering if you've got all the differentiation right, or you've got all the resources right, or is it engaging enough, or have I remembered all of this, and wanting it to be perfect. Trying and lesson plans are important, but what we know as teachers is that what you plan isn't always what happens in the classroom. We have to react to what's going on in the classroom. So we might teach something, children might not get it at all, and we have to completely rewind and go, actually, they didn't know the step before. And good teaching is that adaptability. So you're not going to have the perfect lesson plan, so that's one way. Or emails. So we communicate a lot by emails as teachers. And the difficulty with emails and text messages is that there is no, we often get the tone of an email, of a conversation, by the voice, like, are they being friendly? Are they annoyed with me? But because text messages, you can't read that. Haven't got the information that when we're having a conversation with somebody that we can read. We don't have their tone of voice. We don't have their expressions. And so we can read an email. Two people can read an email very differently,
Yeah,
depending on what's
absolutely.
going on up here.
Yeah,
If you're in,
the same person could read an email differently. Like, you could be in a bad mood, or in low vibration mood, or feeling a little bit low self-worthy or whatever. And you read the email and you think, oh my God, it's about me. Oh my God, I start worrying. But if you're actually in a high vibrational mood and really feeling good about yourself, you can read it in a different tone in your own head. You're like, that's a good
Yeah.
email.
Yeah,
So
actually, it's quite good if, if you get a message or an email from somebody and you instantly feel triggered and you go into a bit of a spiral, or you feel angry and you want to retaliate in some way, it's a really good idea to give yourself some space, because
yes.
actually once you've grounded yourself and turned off that negative thought spiral through reframing, which we'll talk about later, then when you go and revisit it can read completely differently,
Yeah,
can't it?
really can, yeah.
Yeah, so it's important to put that space before the
It is.
reaction we talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Don't react if you're if you're kind of in a triggered mood. Wait till you're calm.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a good idea to read. If you think an email is aimed at you, it's a good idea to go, oh, I'm going to give that some space. I'm going to go and do something nice for myself, or think about something else, and I'm going to come and read this later when I'm feeling a bit better. Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, you read emails, it's at the end of the day, you've had a child that's been being a pain, or a parent that's had a go at you, and then you read an email and you're already set in the negative. You're already like, the world's against me today, and so you're going to read it differently. So it's a really good idea to maybe read it more than once, put some
Yeah.
space between the reading. Also writing emails, or messages to people or staff, wondering if they're going to read the tone of it right. And I used to do this, or I'd send an email and then I'd read it and I'd go, oh gosh, I hope they don't think I meant that, or I hope they didn't think I was being arsey, which is going back to that playing over things again, isn't it? And trying to predict how it's going to be received. And as we've said, an email can be received by different people differently, and the same person differently at different times.
Yeah.
So that you can't predict how it's going to be received, can you? Parent meetings anxiety. So dealing with parents, did you say too much? Were you we do this thing where we're like, we let the parents read between the lines, because sometimes a child can be a real pain and isn't really working as well as they should be. But we say it softly, but sometimes when you say it softly, the message doesn't get across. So then you're over what, or maybe I was a bit direct, maybe I was a bit stressed, So overthinking those sorts of situations. And then marking, am I marking enough? Is it, when they collect the books in, is it going to be okay? There's a lot of scrutiny in teaching. They take your books in, they check, and it's because they've got a job to do as well. They need to make sure we're all doing the same thing, but it can feel personal, and sometimes we have to judge things. So it's easy when you're judging, say you're marking a maths paper and there's a right and wrong answer, but when it's things like leveling writing, there's it's a bit subjective, isn't it? And so doubting yourself, is it this at expected, or is it not expected, or and will somebody look at it and have a different judgment? And it's okay if someone has a look at it and has a different judgment as well, isn't it? That's that
Yeah.
conversation. But sometimes we're worried, like we're being caught out, and instead of seeing it as feedback, and maybe, I could learn from this person, or we can have a really interesting conversation around this, why I think that's different. We think, I got it wrong, Yeah, so there's some examples. I don't know if we've got a couple more, actually. Yeah, that we say this. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Oh, it is. It really is. We worry so much about whatever the way everyone else is doing it. It's like, oh my God, am I doing it wrong? And it's just like, no, you're doing it the right way for you. And that's the thing, we have to understand that we are all different. So the way somebody else does it might not fit for your teaching style or your learning style. So therefore you have to do it with what feels comfortable with you.
Yeah, and it's just like you see teachers who seem to have it all together in the perfect classroom, and they look like they've spent hours and hours on displays, and you're like, I'm struggling just to keep on top of the marking, and what we need to remember is that people's situations are different. So you don't know how much support or what the expectations are in their school. Also, you don't see all the tough times they're having. You're just seeing that nice picture that they put on. You don't see all the chaos that goes on. So it's really important that we're aware that when we see pictures of other classes, classrooms, you know, these exemplary pictures, that's what they are. They're an exemplary picture and not reality for that teacher, most likely. Yeah.